Welcome to another episode of my shitty podcast. Before I get into my podcast, today when I was driving home from work, it was one of the annals of thank God I'm not those people. Driving down the road and see all these cop cars, these cop SUVs passing me, and I'm like, fuck, trying to get out of the way, but they're driving really fast with their lights off. And as I'm going, I see a cop off on the shoulder on the right side, and he's rolling up a spike mat. I could tell what it was. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? Anyways, I get up the road about a mile, and just as I'm getting to the light, there's this car, and there's like 9 cop cars around it. A bunch of cops have surrounded it. There's one with a barking dog, and one guy's got his gun pointed at him, and I'm like, they were young kids too. I'm like, this girl was in the back seat, rightly so, with her hands up. And even though I was like 40 feet away, I could tell she was scared as shit, as I would be. But, yeah, I'm betting it was a bunch of kids who had some drugs in the car, who thought it would be wise to run from the police, which it never is. And then it ends up in the annals of, goddamn, I'm glad that's not me. But anyways, what I wanted to talk about today was some things that I'm sick of seeing on TV. Toxic masculinity. Now, Chris Evans, Captain America, is sending a Captain America shield to this little boy. He's like 7 or 8 years old, and he got in front of a dog that was trying to attack his sister and protected her, and he ended up with 90 stitches in his face. And why I gotta call this out is I don't exactly like Chris Evans sending this kid a Captain America shield, encouraging this young boy's toxic masculinity. You gotta ask the question here. We live in an age where toxic masculinity abounds. You see it everywhere. Like when that ex-Marine caught that kid who his mom had to throw off the balcony of the burning building. And, he saved the young kid, but the mom burned up. And I'm just, I have to look at that objectively and be like, there was a lot of toxic masculinity involved there. I don't know why it couldn't have been a strong female that caught that kid instead of this young, virulent, former wide receiver Marine who had to step in to save this child. And so what message are we really sending this young boy? Do we really want to send the message that his 5 or 6 year old sister couldn't have fended off this vicious dog by herself? That's one of my main concerns, and what will it do for her self-esteem? There's something to be said for a young girl having to fight off a vicious dog and getting a scar that requires, 90 stitches. There's something way worse. There's a way worse fate than her getting bit by that dog like that. Possibly would have gotten killed. And that's that her brother had to step in and have a male savior complex when this vicious dog was attacking this young girl. And, look, he's 9 years old or 8 years old. I don't know that this kid doesn't know better. I wonder what kind of parents this kid grew up with. That he thinks it's okay to step in and fight a vicious dog, thus stealing the spotlight from his strong, empowered younger sister. It's a little bit disturbing to me. I might need to talk to the young boy's parents and be like, what kind of boy are you raising here? I mean, this is to the point where it's unacceptable. This could have been a life-changing moment for this young girl. And this young boy steps in and steals her spotlight But even worse than that, the media is celebrating. I'm not even going to get into the fact that he's a young blonde boy. I mean, he should be dyeing his hair a different color. Maybe red or something. I don't know. But I just don't get why the media... I mean, I get it. He's got bad parents. You know, not all of us were fortunate enough to grow up in a third wave feminist household where the man takes on the submissive role. I mean, we all weren't fortunate enough to understand female empowerment in that way. And, so, look, you got a bum roll of the dice. He probably got a father who said some sexist stuff to him. Like, probably that Marine, go look it up now, Marine catches baby thrown out of a burning building on the second floor. That guy was probably raised in a household with toxic masculinity too, because he wanted to go and be a Marine. I mean, that's just a place of toxic masculinity. But, okay, so granted, the kid is only 8 or 9 years old, and, he doesn't really know right from wrong. Like, in the future, it's our duty as the previous generation to explain to him how wrong he was about stepping in to fight that vicious dog. The parents, they're a lost cause. Because, I just imagine what that horrible father sat around saying to his son. Like, okay, son, let me explain something to you. This guy's probably this horrible that he would quote Lieutenant Grossman's On Killing. He said, there's 3 types of people in the world. There's sheeps, there's wolves, and there's sheepdogs. And the sheeps don't like the sheepdog because the sheepdog reminds the sheep that the wolf exists. And he probably beat some toxic masculinity bullshit into this kid. Like, it's your duty as an older brother to protect your younger sister. And I can't even imagine what kind of message that sent to that young girl. Because she's probably going to have daddy issues her entire life. That she had a father that didn't respect her enough at 5 years old to be able to fight off a vicious dog. I don't know what kind of damage that's going to do to her self-esteem. And, the media's propping up this kid. He's walking around in a Captain America outfit. And Chris Evans is calling him and, saying he's sending him a Captain America shield, thus reaffirming the message to this 8-year-old boy that toxic masculinity is okay. And I'm sick of it. That young boy should have tucked his dick and balls between his legs and ran away and let his sister fend off that vicious dog. Because you don't want to send the wrong message that it's okay to step in and protect somebody else. It's just gross. I'm just kind of beside myself on it. I kind of think that kid needs to be taken from his father and put in a re-education camp with a gender study major to further his education on what he did there was sexist and misogynist. To just assume that a 5-year-old girl can't fight off a vicious dog. It's the worst of... It's an insidious form of misogyny and toxic masculinity. And, I just hope if you're out there and, you do happen to listen to my stupid podcast or whatever, if you're a friend and I tell you about it and you listen, and look, you're raising a young boy. The best thing I could ask of you is to not raise your sons with that kind of misogyny and hateful attitude towards women and assuming that they can't do something. I would have been just as upset at this young boy if that vicious dog had been charging at his grandma, who's 75 years old, and he had gotten in front of that dog too to fend it off from his grandma, who's, probably a lot weaker because she's in her 70s. She's probably got osteoporosis. She's probably got some cloudy glaucoma eyes. And, what kind of message would that have sent to grandma had he stepped in and fended off that dog, unless, thus denying her the satisfaction of beating up a vicious dog herself? I don't know where this country's going with attitudes like this. Disturbs me a little bit when I see this kind of stuff in the news. It's just the worst. It's probably going to happen. It's probably going to become of that kid, too. He's probably going to join the military. Or he's going to become a police officer or a firefighter or both. And then he's just going to go out in the world and propagate his toxic masculinity everywhere. He's probably end up liking to shoot guns. Kid probably refuses to play with Barbie dolls. Probably likes Tonka trucks. Probably likes to, play, cops and robbers with his buddies. This kid probably going to end up being one of those guys, those macho dudes that lifts weights and takes mixed martial arts. Probably won't be a vegan. I just don't know. Amidst all this COVID stuff, just seeing a young boy rewarded for his toxic masculinity like that is just kind of disgusting. Probably like blowing stuff up. Probably think it's funny to take like a plastic toy and light an M80 under it and watch it explode. It's just, he'd probably end up being one of those cops that I saw tonight. When the people fled from the police and they had the temerity to chase him down and engage with him in a violent way, threat of violence. Because, everybody just complies when law enforcement comes around. You don't need to be having guns. Look, it just leads me into my next little diatribe here. So, Berkley, California, has gone ahead and made an awesome step for, to reform policing. So now what's going to happen is, in the city of Berkeley, instead of using police officers to give tickets, they're going to have government employees who aren't armed hand out tickets to people. And, there's no possible way that this is going to backfire or go wrong. It's just a beautiful step that I see into abolishing the police forces everywhere. Because, look, if you just talk calmly to people, there's nobody really out there that's going to argue with you about a traffic ticket and escalate it. Because they're going to be trained in de-escalation techniques. So, it'll probably go something like this. Like, yo, why are you pulling me over? Well, sir, you were speeding, so I got to hand you a citation. You a cop? No? Oh, thank God, man. For a second there, I thought you were a police officer, a person that we trained and we sent out to enforce the laws and, is willing to use force up into taking your life if you're not complying with the law. I'm just really glad that I'm not seeing a police officer here. So thank you for that ticket, sir. And you have a wonderful day. I'll be sure to pay this. And then that guy will probably go home to his wife or his girlfriend, and he'll say, I got a speeding ticket today. At first I was really angry because I thought it was a cop. And when I was relieved when I walked up and there was this, real skinny, kind of effeminate. He told me he majored in gender studies, and he just informed me that I was speeding, and he gave me a traffic ticket. It would have been awful if a police officer had intervened. I'm sure this is going to turn into a stunning success, and they're not going to be calling the cops in, right after there's about 5 murders over fucking traffic tickets because bad people panic, and then you can't get them under control. There was just a cop out there who had to gun a dude down because he ran at him with a knife. I'm sure none of that's going to happen when you got, good old de-escalation Larry out there, just using his de-escalation techniques. Not that I don't think de-escalation techniques aren't a viable technique. It's just that if they fail, you also kind of need somebody who is skilled at violence to gain control of the non-compliant suspect. It's not like any of that. You need any of that. Jesus. The world just gets fucking dumber every day. Every day I just turn on the news and I see dumber and dumber shit. So let's talk about something fun. Have you seen the entanglement? Now, I'm a big fan of Will Smith. Okay? Like, my favorite Will Smith is Burnout Cop Will Smith, like in Bright on Netflix. I like Will Smith pulls off a burnout guy who just doesn't give a fuck anymore better than almost anybody in Hollywood. There's a few guys that could challenge him for the throne. I could make a case that Bruce Willis, in some of his early cop movies, made an awesome burnout detective who just doesn't give a shit. But I couldn't really watch it because I'm just watching a man who's just a beautiful human being from what I can see. I don't know the guy. Like, I've talked about how I think other celebrities are just vapid, worthless, toe the line, no soul people. And Will Smith just seems like a bright, vibrant dude who's a pleasure to be around, who's really accepting and loving, and seems like he was a great husband, especially since you don't understand the level of fame that Will Smith had, that pussy was just thrown at him like it's a fucking tropical storm in Florida. But, that's not really his thing. He decided to be a family man. So it's just like, as a dude, I don't know if I could sit there listening to my wife diminish the fact that she was fucking my son's friend for, I don't know, however long it was. And then just making it out to be partially his fault, taking some credit for it, but just watching the expressions on his face, as he has to sit there and listen to her work through the details, and then all the memes that are going around. And, I just can't help but feel for the dude because, he's probably sitting there with a broken heart the whole time. And because he's good at acting, like, I don't understand why this really even needed to be brought out into the public. Yeah, he said that they were banging, right? Okay. You come out, you say, yeah, we were having some marital difficulties. She did her thing. I did my thing. We don't really want to comment on this in public. This is kind of a private matter between a husband and a wife. I don't understand why Jada Smith and then Will Smith agreed to do it. I don't understand why Will was like, listen, babe, I'm not airing her. Because I'm just telling you right now, if some stuff like that happened with me and it became public knowledge, I would just say to people, I'd be like, yeah, man, there's my public life and then there's my personal life. And my personal life is my business. And I don't really want it out there. So, yes, we were separated. We both saw other people. End of story. But it just, in this, you just see celebrities a lot of times. In a time like this, when they can't get their fame whore fix, it's just bizarre the levels that they're going to. Like you had that Imagine song thing, where all those celebrities were singing Imagine, and they thought that that would go over well, and just regular people are like, oh yeah, well, I'm out of work, I'm broke, COVID's burning down the economy like an arsonist in a liquor store, and everything's all better because you sat there in your fucking mansion and you sang Imagine to me. Now, don't get me wrong, Gal Gadot is as close to perfect looking as a human being can get, but, I don't want to hear her sing Imagine to me. I just don't care that much. Ugh. And I didn't really want to see one of my favorite actors' heart being broken on the internet that's being beamed to billions of people. That's the point of that rant. I don't know if there's anything else I wanted to talk about. Oh, yeah. No, I know. This is what I'm going to talk about. 2 things. And then we're done. You can go about your business. One of them's going to be really quick. Did you see Donald Trump out there with his cranes and for doing his re-election thing? Yeah. Is anybody else fascinated by how bizarre human beings are at this point? Like, how is this man? Like, how does... It's so bizarre. I don't even know if I can articulate it and if I even want to continue with it. But it was just such a bizarre spectacle to, looking at my local news. And Donald Trump's out there with Trump cranes. And he's seeking re-election. He's probably not going to... I keep telling people this. Look, I say to people, Donald Trump's probably not getting re-elected. And they go, well, that's what they said about when Hillary was running. Why don't you think Donald Trump is going to get reelected? I think the swing voters are sick of him. And historically, when you've had a bad economy, the incumbent president loses a lot of times. And normally if the economy's running smooth, people just go, all right, well, we don't really want to change anything right now, so let's just leave this guy in place. But with the just clusterfuck that has happened in 2020, it is just, I don't think I would want to be born in any other time before now and be the age that I'm at so I can appreciate it. Because I don't think, look, you got 20-year-old kids out there that support Trump. And like I said, it's the whole Nick Cannon thing. Just got to say, is on opinions. Nick Cannon was on Professor Griff, who was kicked out of Public Enemy, apparently for being too racist. But he said, white people are savages because they lack melanin. And, look, people, there's all this offense about it. I'm the targeted group. When I saw it, I just laughed. I go, you know what? I was like, if Nick Cannon's that ignorant and that's what his opinion is, maybe he needs some white friends to see that all white people aren't bad. It's one of those things. To me, it's a silly position to hold, but if you hold it, that's your business, man, in a free society. Would I work with him? Absolutely, if I thought money was on the table, because green is my favorite color. But you're 20-year-olds now, a lot of times. They don't understand a country that was more reasoned and willing to listen to each other. And so that's why I'm old enough to remember that time. I'm old enough to remember a time when the Democrats and the Republicans kind of would cross the aisle for major issues. And then something happened in about the 1980s where It just turned into this divisive political arena. And I don't know. I don't know what the point of this rant is. I guess the point of this rant is, I guess I'd end this diatribe on life is a tragedy to those who feel, and it's a comedy to those who think. Because it's kind of hilarious. Last thing I have to talk about. I don't understand how these titans of business don't understand the ramifications of their actions. So, if you can go and look at it online, Red Bull had this map up of the rest of the world where it's like Africa, zoo animals come from here, blah, blah, blah. I think coffee comes from here. America, this is awesome, or this was where everything happens. And so he's basically going to have to step down now. And there were people that went into the HR department and complained about it to HR. And nothing was done about this map being put up. Look, like I just got done saying, I think if something's funny to me, something's funny to me. It's a little bit funny. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's kind of funny. It's Canada is uninhabited. But, look, if I was working for Red Bull, I would go to whoever and go, listen, you and I think that's funny because we're two savages and we laugh about everything. Like, once you go into the military, you hear, not that I was really prone to being offended before, because if something's legitly funny to me, it's legitly funny to me. I have gallows humor. You watch, like, cops develop it when they're on scenes and they're making jokes about a dead body on the ground. Yeah, that's the type of people that go into that line of that line of work anyways, and then the working in that environment just makes our senses of humor even more gallows, because we just try to top each other. Not like top each other in the gay community, but we try to say more and more ridiculous shit just to get the other person to laugh. But if I was working for the company, I would have said, listen, dude, there is no possible way that you can't see what you're doing up there is going to come back to haunt the company. That's why I really need to get off my ass, stop doing YouTube videos, stop doing my podcast and open my consulting company. And you know what I would do? I would kind of change my podcast up. I would kind of come in and I would have my guests in, and they would be like, hey man, we want to put this flag up. Let me see. Okay, USA, everything is awesome here. Zoo animals come from Africa. Evil people live here in North Korea. I'd be like, yeah, man, I don't think that's a good idea. I think what you should do is not do that at all. But it's funny. You're right. It is. It's extremely funny. I think it's funny. But listen, in the hypercharged environment that we live in today, everybody's going to interpret it wrong, and it's going to cost you billions of dollars. And I don't see how you motherfuckers that are up high in these companies don't understand this. But anyways, I'm going to conclude that rant today for today because I got to take a piss. But anyways, hope if you listen, thanks. If not, I don't know what to tell you.